This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined today by Janice Kamenir-Reznik. She is a candidate for the California State Senate, and I've known you for quite some time. And
Indeed.
I want to get a sense, why have you decided, after being a successful lawyer, after being the president of Jewish World Watch, where you traveled to Africa to end genocide, to help those that needed help, why did you decide to put that aside and run for office in Sacramento?
It is a good question, but I have a few reasons. One is I feel very passionately about the need for women to run for public office and to have an appropriate number of women in the legislature. Right now, California is an all-time low, not all-time, but in modern history, an all-time low. Our height was 10 years ago, and we were at about 33% of the California state legislature. This year we have fallen, and we are losing 9 women in the state legislature, so it was going to really fall to very low numbers.
In anticipation of our interview, I did a little history lesson to myself, and I had forgotten the first female in the California State Senate was only in 1976. We were both alive then.
Alive and grown. I was a college graduate in 1976.
I mean, the Assembly has seen women since 1918, but that's recent. I mean, 1976.
Diane Watson, if I'm not mistaken.
It was actually, there was one before. She was the first woman of color. Her name was Rose Vukulich or something like that from Fresno.
Okay.
She had taken the seat of, I think it was a late husband. And so what does it mean to you that in your lifetime, the first woman became a member of the state senate, and now you may be joining in that august group?
I think it's incredibly significant that it is becoming more acceptable for women to run for office and be represented. Of course, we are 52% of the population, or 51.5% of the population, and we're still pitifully, poorly represented in the state legislature. And one of the reasons I'm running
you could have been doing other things.
Right. Exactly, is to demonstrate that it's really important for women to agree to put themselves out there and to run. I think women are more intimidated by men, and I want to demonstrate that I'm not intimidated, and other women should follow suit.
It's funny you say that. I was speaking with a sociologist, and we were talking about this very issue of women running for office and men running for office. When men run for office, they decide, I'm running for office. When women run, there's a committee and they have to talk about it. And that's what the sociologist told me. There's something about it where men feel as if they have the strength, and of course I'm running, I'm a man, whereas women somehow need to check in.
Well, not only check in, they need to be recruited. And there are organizations that, in fact, I was recruited by an organization to run, and they say that most women need to be asked more than 6 times to run before they finally agree to run. You know, I think part of it is women are socialized to be more modest and more less bold and less openly confident.
But think about California. I mean, we had a female speaker, Toni Atkins. She served with a Republican leader, Kristen Olson. I'm naming women. The current GOP leader is Jean Fuller, a woman. And so we do see leaders. We think of Betty Yee. We have Fiona Ma. I mean, there are a lot of very successful women in our state.
Right, and they are serving as role models, which is why you're not at 0% like you were only 40 years ago. And we have more women running. But one of our challenges is to get young women in their 30s to be as bold as the young men in their 30s are, to believe that they can pursue a political career.
I am thinking about the members of the legislature who are female, and they do tend to be a little older.
Well, because many women like me in my 30s, I was having my children and decided I didn't want a career that would take me to another jurisdiction away from my children.
At the same time, there are reasons to vote for Janice Kamenir-Reznik, other than the fact she is a woman.
Definitely.
And so talk to me about why you believe now is the time to put Janice Kamenir-Reznik in the California State Senate.
Well, for the last 40 years, I've had a variety of different careers and positions which have demonstrated my leadership. And I've been able to not only practice law, I've built my own law firm, so I've run a small business in the San Fernando Valley. And I understand the challenges of running a business and being successful in business. And I represented small businesses and small property owners, so I'm really familiar with their challenges. In addition, I've led organizations, and I've started a successful nonprofit that fights genocide and works and actually brings solutions to 500,000 people in Africa.
And I want to talk to you about that because, look, no doubt, being a small business owner yourself, a law firm, it's a business, informs you in a certain way, and it allows you to see the world through certain glasses. But Janice, I mean, how many times do you travel to Africa?
About a dozen.
I mean, I'm actually feeling myself getting emotional thinking about what you do because I know what you've done. We've talked about it.
Right.
You are helping the men and women of Africa who they can't even cook their own meals. You know,
There's no food for many of them.
Right, but you had to bring these devices, solar
cookers,
yeah,
right.
where they're literally using reflections off of, they look like tanning, sheets to cook. I mean, what is that? How does that experience inform your potential move to Sacramento?
Well, what it does is it emboldens me that if we can solve those problems under those challenging circumstances from 10,000 miles away, I have no doubt that we can solve a lot of California's water problems, jobs problem, housing problems. That to me, having stared down warlords in Congo and having brought really innovative
What
solutions.
about the warlords up in Sacramento?
Well, I mean, I'm not intimidated by them either. I mean, they don't scare me.
So let's talk about going to Sacramento. You'd be part of a body of 40. Presumably, you'd be in the majority. The Democrats do believe they will retain the majority, so you could quickly have an impact. What types of committees would you like to join? If you could be given a leadership opportunity, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I don't want to hex my chances by giving myself leadership opportunities.
Fair enough. But what about committee assignments generally?
Okay, let's talk about committee assignments. I think the Judiciary Committee, it's really important for lawyers, and I think it's even a mandate that it be lawyers that sit on Judiciary.
And there are fewer lawyers, I understand.
Fewer lawyers, a declining balance of lawyers in the state legislature, and there is a special gift that lawyers have to understand language and understand a gift or a curse.
I used to be a lawyer, so it's okay.
It depends what side of the what
Exactly.
side of the conflict you're on. But I do think that a lot of the problems with our legislation has been legislation that is not always neatly drafted, not always well drafted and well crafted.
Or what about the initiatives?
Well, that's a whole other subject. That's inaction on the part of the legislature, that sort of abdication on issues that are too political or too sensitive for people. So for legislators, because they're worried about being reelected, so they defer to the public, and that's a whole other leadership issue.
Now, the good news is, should you be elected because of the extension of term limits, you could be in that body for 12 years.
Absolutely.
You could presumably pursue certain agenda items. Do you have a sense what items you would want to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in any matter having to do with civil rights and pay equity for women. And we have Hannah Beth Jackson's pay equity law, which is really important.
Who's head of the Women's Caucus right now.
Yes, she is. And she's
which is bipartisan.
It is bipartisan. And in addition to that, I think California's housing crisis is a very serious problem that we need to deal with. And that means we need to have a greater emphasis on being able to plan our communities transportation-wise, water-wise, and housing-wise in a way that would really bring relief to the housing crisis that's really epic in California.
So let me ask you, as you walk, I think you're probably walking, although the district is huge, it's probably hard to knock on 900,000 doors, but if you are, what are you hearing?
People are frustrated about the economy. Even though the economy is looking up, people are concerned about jobs. And the biggest thing is water. Everybody's really anxious about water.
How interesting.
And anxious about conservation and how much more conservation they're going to need to do, about how we're going to supply Southern California with water during the drought.
Right.
So I hear a lot about water. And in certain parts of the district, you hear a lot about concerns about transportation. And then there are other parts of the district that you have people wanting very much to preserve the beauty of the district and the open space.
A huge district.
I mean,
Malibu,
we have Malibu,
Mountain.
we have the Santa Monica Mountains, we have the agricultural areas in Ventura County, all the open space areas, and there's a lot of desire on the part of many of those western parts of the district to preserve a rural lifestyle. And when you go out there and see how gorgeous the areas are in Thousand Oaks and Simi Valley and the open areas of Ventura County, it's worth preserving.
You must be having a ball.
So
honestly,
it's
you're
really
learning a lot.
interesting. It's really interesting.
I want to thank you for joining us. Her name is
you.
Janice Kamenir-Reznik. She is running for the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter Local Edition.